Here we go. We're going to make a start. Alright. So find a space, we're just going to go through a little bit of a warm up to start to prep the body. And let's see how we get on this morning. Okay, so just going to warm up. I want you in your squat position, okay, whatever that natural position is for you. For me, that's my feet a little bit wider than the outside of my shoulders with my toes turned out slightly. And all you're going to do is you're going to work through 5 body weight squats nice and slowly. On the 5th one, what I want you to do is hands to the floor, walk out into that long position, and then into a down dog. Come back on through to that press up position, step 1 foot up towards the hand. Spend a few seconds there, step it back into another down dog. Slight soft bend in the knees, come back through to that press up position, step the other foot up towards the hand. Spend a few seconds there. Take it back, 1 more down dog. Back to that press up position. Step the foot forwards, and this time we're going to point the elbow that's nearest the foot, point it right at the ankle, then come past the knee, point it to the ceiling, turn and open, and then do 2 more. If you can point that elbow right down towards the floor, almost get it to touch the floor, great. If you can't, don't worry, it's still pretty early. Step, and then we change sides. Okay, this isn't about speed. This is about getting into those sticky corners and really thinking about how I turn and open the torso. Good. Once we're all done there, we're going to come down. We're going to take a knee and we're just going to continue to open up the thoracic spine a little bit. So in that all-4 position, I'm going to thread the needle and reach right through as far as I can. Try and get my shoulder underneath the body. Then I'm going to turn and get that same rotation. But now my hips are locked. I want to focus more on turning that chest. 2 more. Reach under as far as you can without sliding your body across. We're thinking about getting the shoulder underneath the body. And then we turn and we open. Once we've done 3 on one side, we can get 3 on the other. And you'll see me rotate far better on this side. Awesome, good job. Take a second there, I'm just going to take my hoodie off, warming up nicely now. Okay, we're just going to continue to get into the hips, but in a slightly different plane, okay? So from this all-4 position, I want you to take 1 foot out, doesn't matter which, completely perpendicular to the body, okay? So it's right up, my foot is level with my hip. And from this position, I just want you to rock backwards and forwards. I want you to feel that stretch down through your adductor. Okay, so side on and here. And you're just going to rock backwards and forwards, not worrying about if your lower back runs out. Okay, we've got no load through it, so that's fine. Keeping the toe on that straightened leg pointing forwards. And then we're going to switch sides. Step the foot out to the side. And just rocking back and forth. Very nice. Good. Okay. Last little bit. We're going to do 2 press-up variations, okay? 5 of each. And the first one that we're going to do is a regular press-up, okay? So you find your position. You're either going to be here with the knees on the floor with a good straight line through your body, or you're going to plant your toes and you're going to come up high. Make sure that I'm controlling the pelvis. So i.e. keeping it tucked rather than keeping the lower back arched. And just 5 nice controlled reps. Don't rush them. Think about the tension you've got through your hands. Nice. Once you've got 5, you're going to stay in your press up position. Okay, so you may actually need to box that a little bit, or you can stay in that half kneeling position, or you can come up into that full press up. Now in that full press up position, you might find that your shoulder blades are squeezed together slightly. Okay, what I want you to do from that position is think about how, keeping your arms straight, you push the floor away. So you're getting your shoulder blades to spread. Okay, 5 repetitions of pushing the floor away so that your upper back rounds. Nice and controlled. So the only thing that's moving there is my shoulder joint and my shoulder blades, nothing happening through your lower back. Once you're done there, that's our warm up completed. 5 minutes and we're all done. Awesome. Good stuff, guys. Alrighty. So, like I said, if you've got a few different weights, that's fine, because you may find that you'll work better with that, okay? Now, if you've only got 1 dumbbell, we've got a minimum requirement of around about 20 seconds of tension is what we're chasing, okay? If you can go for longer, that's great. The only caveat is that the movement needs to look the same at the end of the set as it does at the start of the set. Okay? We want it to be challenging enough that around the 30-second mark, you're thinking about stopping, so that we're getting adequate rest of about 1-to-1 work to rest, okay? And the trick is with this, with a fixed load, go slow. Okay, I'm purposely going to go slow this morning, so try and keep the tempo the same as mine, and we'll work with a set rest. Okay, no more than 30 to 40 seconds of work and no less than about 20, and we'll be just right. Okay, so the movements that we're going to do today are, if you've got a kettlebell, it doesn't matter, you're just going to hold the weight slightly differently, okay, to a dumbbell. We're going to start with a sumo squat, okay? The sumo squat, we're going to go much wider than a regular squat, and we're going to turn the toes out. Now, if you normally squat with a mat about 11 and 1, we've then got 10 and 2, that's okay. If you can get them out a little bit wider, that's great. We don't want to be having them pointed at 9 and 3 though, okay? So that's my start position, and I'm going to pick the weight up in both hands. I can choose to hold it here if I want. Obviously, if you've got a kettlebell, it's nice and easy to hold, but a dumbbell you can hold lengthways or have it pointing forwards. And the movement we're looking for here is a squat down. You're not going to squat as far as you will do normally, and we're going to come halfway back up, back down to the bottom, and then stand for 1 rep. Okay? That's our movement. Your knees will go where your toes point. So if you've only got them at 10 and 2, that's where I'm going to send my knees. Okay? Our second exercise is an alternating row. Now you can put the weight down while you alternate, or you can just flick it into the other hand. So my position is very squat-like, but now I've got a bit more hip engagement as well. So I'm almost parallel to the floor, and I'm going to row and switch. Row and switch. Okay, a little bit of body English through your shoulders is fine. What we don't want to see is a rounding through the lower back. So I'm in a good strong position. If I'm mobile enough, I can put that weight down between reps. Okay, and that lower back's got to stay nice and flat. Exercise number 3 is a half get up. So we're going to transition to lying on the floor. Whichever weight the hand is in, the same knee is going to be up and the opposite hand is out. And from here, I'm going to push this weight up to the ceiling and slide back down to that shoulder and roll back. So the first movement, I rotate my chest towards the hand that's out, and from there I use that hand to sit up. Okay, and I slide back down and roll back. That's one set. Then we'll switch the stance, hand up, I'm going to go the same on the other side. So I'm aiming to be sat fairly upright, I slide back down, rotate, okay? We get to stay on the floor for the remaining exercises, so the transitions are fairly easy. The next one is a single leg glute bridge march. You can put the weight directly across my hips and pelvis. Okay, if you've got a towel handy and you want to have that as a bit of a buffer, that's fine. But I'm going to hold it in place and I'm going to come up on one leg, switch, go down on the other, come back up, switch, down, very light touch on the floor. So when I'm switching sides, I don't want my pelvis rocking. I'm going to work really hard through the glute and really hard through my core to not let my hips and pelvis rock side to side. And then our last exercise. It's a single arm floor press. So I will be down on the floor in what looks like a glute bridge position. The weight will be in one arm like it was for the get up. And from this position, I'm going to do a bench press movement where I start with my hand over my elbow, over my shoulder, and when I come down to the bottom, my hand is still over my elbow. I get a very light touch on the floor. You can use your other hand as a bit of a balancing tool, and once we finish that one set we can rest, and then we'll switch sides and we'll do exactly the same thing on the other side. What we don't want to be doing is bouncing that elbow off the floor because our wrist is going to get jammed in there. I'm coming down, get a very light touch with my upper arm on the floor and then press to the top where I got my wrist over my elbow, over my shoulder, not out too wide. And that'll complete one round. Okay, so we're starting on our feet for the first two, then we come down to the floor for the get up, the glute bridge and the floor press. Remembering that we're going to be alternating side to side through those movements. Okay? Fantastic. If that's completely lost you, don't worry. I'm going to talk you through each exercise as we go. So just remember, a minimum of 20 seconds work. Okay? A maximum of 40. If you've only got light weights to work with, you're going to work for the higher end. But you're going to go really slowly, like a 2 up, 2 down speed. Okay, you can count that out yourself in your own head, and if you want to set your own timer there at home, you can do that as well to follow along. Okay, but I'm going to control it all from this end. Alrighty, find your space, take a deep breath, get yourself in that sumo squat position with your weight where you want it, and we are going to start in 3, 2, 1, away we go. So we come all the way down to the bottom of the squat, a little half rep, and then stand. So remember, your toes are pointing out more wider than they would do for a regular squat. I'm coming down, 2, up, down, and back up. Good. So because this is a double leg exercise, I'm probably going to work more towards the 40-second mark here. Okay. Good, nice and slow and control. Thinking about a good squeeze at the top. 3, 2, 1, and that's time there. Good stuff. Remember, as we go through this first round, things aren't going to feel too bad. So we've got a single arm row next with the switch over. Good squat position. Drop at the knees. Drop forward at the hips. 3, 2, 1. Pick the weight up and we row and switch hands. Notice again the speed. I'm going nice and slowly, and from that side on position, my back stays nice and flat. I'm not pulling the dumbbell to my chest, I'm pulling it outside my ribs, allowing my shoulder blade to move. Keeping my lower back nice and flat, keeping my core nice and tight so my rib cage doesn't flare and open. Good, you're not rushing and getting a good squeeze in that. 3, 2, 1, last time. Good stuff. Down to the floor for our half get up. So remember, I'm going to be lying down, whichever weight the hand is in, the same knee is up, the other leg is out, and the non-working hand is out at the side. 3, 2, 1, away we go. We sit up, slide down. So again, I'm going to come up a little bit quicker, okay, but coming down, I want control. 1, 2, 3, push the weight to the ceiling, slowly come down, allowing the core to take the load, making sure that the weight stays over my shoulder all the time. Okay, so from that side on position, I'm not pushing the weight forward because it's going to drop. I need to think about pushing it straight up towards the ceiling. 3, 2, 1, that finishes the set. Then all I'm going to do is change the side that the weight is on, and I'm going to flip my legs over. Taking a breather, we got about 10 seconds. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, away we go. Pushing that weight up. So I'm finishing sitting pretty upright. I control onto my non-working shoulder and roll back. If you're working with a lighter weight, what you can do is use that non-working arm a little bit less, and you can sit up a little bit straighter to load the core. You notice, for me, that load means that both my feet come off the floor. If I do that, because it's a little bit heavier, but I can certainly use my non-working arm a little bit less. 3, 2, 1, we rest. Good job. So as the glute bridge march next, that weight's going to sit across your hips and pelvis. Single leg glute bridge, switch legs at the top, lower down, come back up. We go in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. One leg off the floor, bridge to the top, switch the legs over, lower down and touch, come back up, change over. So really controlled on the changeover. Good, nice and slow and controlled. Big squeeze at the top, making sure the glute is doing all the work so I'm not arching my lower back. Good. 3, 2, 1. That's time. Slowly lose the weight. We've got our single arm floor press next. Okay. We're 10 seconds away. You're going to be down on the floor in that nice flat position. Dumbbell in one hand. 3, 2, 1. Hand over elbow. It stays over the elbows. I go wide. I get a light touch on the floor, and then I press. You can use the non-working hand to balance, or I often like to use it to make sure I'm maximising the contraction through my chest, so I'm really linking what's going on in my head to where the weight is. Down, 2, up, 2. And if I'm really controlled on that upward phase, I can really feel things work because I've got a lot of tension. Good. 3, 2, 1. That's 40 seconds of work there. So first round, you might find the 40 seconds is just about right. As we go through and the fatigue starts to set in, you might need to work a little bit less time. We switch inside in 5 seconds. Here we go in 3, 2, 1. So nicely set up, down, 2, up, 2, down, 2. Keep it smooth though, so we don't want to come down, 2, up, 2. We still want to come down smooth with no pauses. Light upper arm touch on the floor. And at the top, we don't want to bring the weight right to the inside. It needs to stay up over the shoulder, so we keep some load through the chest all the time. Three, 2, 1. And that finishes our first round. Nicely done, guys. So remember, like I said, if you've got multiple weights to use, you can use heavier ones for things like the sumo squat. You might need to go slightly lighter for the row. You might need to, again, go a bit lighter for the half get up. And then the glute bridge and the floor press, you might be able to go back up to a heavier load. So feel free to play around with the load, okay? If you've got one implement, the same as I'm doing this morning, things like the sumo squat, you want to go really slow to keep the tension in the system. And things like the get up, you're going to move a little bit quicker through the upward phase, but you should be able to control the downward phase. We're going again in 30 seconds, alright? So we're going to start with the sumo squat. I'm going to hold the dumbbell slightly differently this time so you can see that there are multiple ways of holding another dumbbell. Make sure you get your drink on board. We've got 10 seconds. So I'm getting into a nice wide stance. My toes are turned up. I'm going to focus my knees in going in the same direction. And I'm going to pick the weight up because we go in 3, 2, 1. I'm going to come down super, super slow. I'm not going to bounce here. I fully extend at the top. Now if you're working with a weight that feels really light, all you're going to do is you're going to stay in the pulse zone. Okay? No bouncing, so I don't bounce here. Controlled squeeze. Good. Nice and slow and controlled. 3, 2, 1. Beautifully done. I'm going to put that weight down, ready for the row. And again with the row, I'm not going to bounce and squeeze that weight up really quickly. I'm going to control it, pulling it out to the side of my body, not into my chest, okay? Here we go. 3, 2, 1. I've got my body over the weight. I squeeze and change sides. So what we don't want is a lot of quick reps with no mechanical tension. I get a good squeeze at the top, change sides. Notice that my elbow is going wide outside my body. And I'm slow and controlled, and I'm stopping the weight here at the top of that movement to really get a good squeeze in between my shoulder blades. 3, 2, 1. Nicely done. We're going down to the floor for our get up next. So I'm down on the floor, whichever hand the weight's going to be in, that's the knee that's up. My non-working hand is going to go up nice and wide. And I'm going to start in 3, 2, 1. I keep a hand over the shoulder all the time as I sit up. And I come down under control. As soon as I back and have both shoulders touching the floor, I will sit up. If I want to be really hard on myself, I'll do the upward phase slowly. With less momentum, I'm really controlling the way down. We've got 5 seconds left. 3, 2, 1. I'm going to switch legs, bring the weight down, take a little breather, but the weight's going to be on the other side this time. Good. So remember, the more mechanical tension you can keep, the harder this will feel. The weight will feel heavier than it actually is. Alright, here we go. 3, 2, 1. So again, I can choose to go as slowly as I can without it affecting the quality of the movement. If I need to speed it up, I can do, so that I can actually keep working, but coming down I'm much stronger. My core knows what it's doing. Good, you got about 5 seconds if you want to squeeze one more rep in. And that's time there. Okay, we got the glute march next. So that glute march, the weight's going to sit across the hips. Here we go, 3, 2, 1. I come up on one leg, switch over and down. And I really take my time on the change. What I can do is I can stay in that change if I want to, and I'm just going to march side to side. You might find that a bit more challenging, because we're just having to hold without getting any shifting of the pelvis. So another little way of spicing it up. 3, 2, 1, we're done. I'm going to lower down and get ready for my floor press. So floor press, we're starting in the same position. We're down on the floor, we've got 10 seconds. So I'm in a glute bridge position, but I'm also in that half get up position. And from here, 3, 2, 1, I'm going to control it down. I'm going to press. 1, 2, 1, 2. Keeping things under control all the time. I'm not allowing my body to rotate with the weight. If you're working with a kettlebell, obviously that weight's going to be sitting on the back of your arm. It increases the challenge slightly. We've got 10 seconds to go to reach 40. If you're done at this point, that's fine. If you're starting to feel the fatigue, no worries. Don't force the reps. And that's time there. That set definitely felt different for me. A little bit of fatigue in the chest. Good, we have 10 seconds and we're going to hit the other side. So I'm down in position. The wider I put my feet, the more stable I'm going to be. The closer I bring them, 3, 2, 1, the more of a core challenge this offers. Good, I'm not bouncing my upper arm off the floor. I get a feather touch and then I push that way. I'm not resting here with no tension. As soon as I can feel the floor with my tricep, I'm pressing that weight back to its start position. 10 seconds to go. I'm maintaining that tension and really focusing on the squeeze down here when I get to the top. 3, 2, 1. 2 rounds done. 1 round to go. Good stuff. Awesome, guys. Good. 1 more round and then we're into a cool down. So again, like I said, if you've got multiple loads on this last set and you've been a little bit conservative, feel free to manipulate and change those weights around, okay, to make it more challenging for this last round. And as it is the last round, if you've only got the 1 load and you want to extend this out to 50 seconds, you can do. Not a problem, as it's the last round. Keeps him in the tank. Alright, we go in 20 seconds, starting with our sumo squat. So remember what I said, you can stay in that pulse position. Okay, or you can continue to work through the full range. Okay, 10 seconds. We go in 5, so I'm going to pick my load up. 3, 2, 1, here we go. My toes are pointed out, or wherever my toes go, my knees go. Okay? So I can either stay here. From that side on position when we're in the pulse, what we don't want to do is drop forwards and keep an upright torso as much as possible. And when I come to the top, I'm actively really squeezing my quads and my glutes together, so I'm not leaning and pushing my hips through. And you might find you've got a bit more depth now that you're warm. That's okay too. And remember, if you want to work for that full 50, you can do. You notice that I put a double pulse in because it's the last round. 5 seconds will take you to 50. If you're still working, remember you stop working, time, when you feel you need to, okay? Single arm row next. Remember this, don't rush the tempo. Here we go, 3, 2, 1. My back's nice and flat. I row and squeeze, change arms. Remember you can put the weight down if you need to. Good job. Very nice. I feel the lower body's feeling it quite a bit now. I can definitely feel it through my legs here, but I want to make sure I'm really focusing on that shoulder blade squeeze. That's 40 seconds gone. So nothing changes. If I feel like I'm done, I'll put the weight down safely, and that's 3, 2, 1, that's time there. Down to the floor quickly. You've got less time for transitions now. For my half get up, bend at the same knee as the weights in the arm, and then we move into our get up. Remember, we use the non-working arm as a stabilizer and support as much as we need to. So if you're noticing that that weight is flying around all over the place, then you can rest if you need to. Good job. Nice and controlled through it if you can. If you need to sit up a little bit faster because we're struggling, that's okay. 5 seconds to take you to 50. 3, 2, 1, and we're done. Okay, so we bring up the other knee now, straighten out the leg that was bent, change the weight over, and we go in 3, 2, 1. So it's totally fine here to sit up smoothly over the course of a second, but what I want you to aim to do is take 2 or 3 seconds to come down. Remember, I'm actively pushing that weight towards the ceiling all the time. Good, we're past the 30-second mark. So if I feel that my core and my shoulder have had enough, I'm going to take a break. That's 40 seconds. Good, 3, 2, 1. That's time. We've got our glute bridge march now. Okay, so remember you can keep the glute bridge in, or you can just do the march. 3, 2, 1. I'm down in position. Single leg, so I can either come up, switch over at the top, down and touch, or I can come up into that glute bridge, push the weight over my hips, and just stay up in the march. Bringing my knee up towards the weight, so I'm getting a good bit of loading through each hip, and making sure that I'm not letting my hips drop if I'm staying in the march, and also I'm not allowing them to drop side to side. We're past the 30-second mark. I'm actively thinking about squeezing my glute. That's 40 seconds. Really squeezing the hip muscles up into the load. 3, 2, 1 takes you to 50. Less than 10 seconds now into our floor press on each side. Here we go. Ready in 3, 2, 1. Away we go. Because I'm lying on the floor, I've got a little bit less tension through my midsection. There will still be some because the weight's on one side, but I should be able to breathe as I need to. I'm trying to keep the weight over my elbow all the time, so don't let it come in towards the chest at the bottom. And don't keep it out too wide at the top. I'm still aiming for that 2 down, 2 up. That's 40 seconds gone. 3, 2, 1. Last time. We don't have long, there's only 10 seconds. My body position's the same. I take that load up. Here we go. Last round. 3, 2, 1. And keeping that weight over my elbow. Squeeze at the top, so I'm actively pushing it towards the ceiling at the top. I'm not bouncing my upper arm off the floor. I'm controlling down till I can feel my tricep touch and then press away. Looking to keep tension all the time. The bottom position is not where we want to be resting. We're actively pressing the weight all the time, even through the lower phases. Less than 10 seconds to go now. Few more reps and we're done. Come on then guys. 3, 2, 1. And that's us done. Fantastic work. Well done. Beautiful stuff, guys. Well done. Got a nice little sweat on this morning. And now it's time for a little bit of a stretch. Grab a drink first. We'll start the stretch in 40 seconds. So well done on that this morning. If you're going through it by yourself, you can take those 5 movements. 5 movements there, obviously they're left and right. If you wanted to spice that up, you could take the single arm row, they'll be alternated, and you can work through all on one arm, then all on the other. Same for the glute bridge march as well. If you wanted to just make that a single leg glute bridge and do all of one leg, all the other, that extends it out to like a 9-minute circuit. Okay, you can do it that way. You can also break it up. You've got 2 upper and 2 lower body exercises. You could pair them up and do that as 2 individual little upper lower circuits, and then do the core at the end, that half get up. You could do that on its own at the end if you wanted to use it as a bit more of a strength training session. You've got some options there. Okay, good stuff, guys. Okay, come on down, take half kneeling position. I want the back knee underneath the hip. Show you side on. Back knee underneath the hip, but get the front foot slightly out in front of the knee. I want you to come forwards with the weight so that your shin is vertical, in a position where you are if you're going to tie your laces, but sweep the arms up and overhead. And in that overhead position, I'm not leaning back, but I'm trying to let my hips drop through towards the floor. I'm reaching up tall with my hands to separate my hands from my hips, and I should feel that across the front of my back hip. And just breathe on that, okay? Again, we're not sagging forwards, okay? I'm squeezing the glute on the back leg to create some tension across the front of the hip, and then I slowly bring my hands back down. Don't worry about what happens to your lower back in this position. Fingertips either side of that front foot, a bit like a sprinter would be, and then just slowly straighten the front leg. So the hips get pushed back towards your heel, and we feel some load through the hamstring, possibly even the lower back. The leg certainly doesn't need to get straight, okay? Good. Once you're done, here, you come on up, and we're going to switch it over. So again, I've got my back knee underneath my hip, my front foot's out in front, so I've got an angled shin. I come down like I'm going to tie my laces, so notice now that my weight's over that front leg. And I sweep the hands through and up to the ceiling without me leaning behind my hip. I reach tall, and then I squeeze this glute to create the stretch across the hip. And breathe. Good. Slowly bring the hands back down, weight through the front foot into our little sprinter start position. And from here, I lengthen, straighten that front leg until I feel the hamstring bite a little bit. Come back forwards. You notice that I'm feeling a good old stretch there, okay, but I'm not grimacing. The body can tolerate it. Contrary to popular belief with stretching, we don't need to stretch to that nth degree where I'm having to grimace and hold my breath to get the stretch, okay? That's not conducive to the muscle relaxing. Alright? Very nice. Good. Bring both knees under the body now, down into our figure of four, not into figure of four, into a 4-point kneeling position. And from this position, you're going to lift your head, you're going to squeeze your shoulder blades, and you're going to stick your tail up in the air. So you're going to tilt the pelvis down towards the floor. From this position, I want you to tuck your chin into your chest. Then I want you to actively push the floor away, spread your shoulder blades wide, and then lift your rib cage up towards the ceiling and tuck your pelvis underneath. And then sit your weight back towards your heels and slide your hands down into like a modified child's pose. Now if your knees don't like that and you're a little bit further forward, that's completely fine. Okay? Okay, come back up and get back into that big C curved position, making sure your hands are underneath your shoulders. From that position, keep your chin tucked and keep pushing the floor away. Slowly let the pelvis go. Let the rib cage open, squeeze your shoulder blades and lift your head and look forwards. Good job. Okay, from that all four position, take your knees out really wide, bring your toes together, sit your weight back towards your heels, walk down into a full child's pose now. Try to get your hips as far away from your hands as possible. So keep the hips pushed back and walk the hands out forwards. Good, staying down in this position. Come up onto your fingertips with your hands, like you've got a bowl underneath both hands. Keep the hips back, but now look up at your hands and see if you can get your chest through towards the floor a little bit more. Good, hands flat to the floor. Slowly walk yourself up to a half kneeling position. And that's Monday done. Fantastic job, guys, well done.